And welcome to Around the Ozark Spotlight. Each week, we uncover the stories behind the people who live and work in Southwest Missouri, those individuals with entrepreneurial spirit who work to better the life of others, or even put pen to paper to write books about the stories and history of the Ozarks and its people. I'm your host, Scott Meier. Today, we're going to explore the world of local small business and ownership with J.W. DeLong, the president of DeLong Plumbing, Heating, and Air. Hello, J.W.
Good morning or good afternoon, I guess.
Well, it's been a long time coming. I've had the privilege of knowing the DeLong family now almost 8 years, and it's a fascinating story. We're going to find out a little bit about that. But I think the most pressing issue on most people's minds is, what does the JW stand for?
Oh yeah, that's a family trade secret. We don't give that one away, unfortunately. I will tell you the first part of my name is John, and the second is not Wayne. So that's what I get guessed the most at.
Is that right? I was thinking William, but I don't
Yeah.
know. My father was Wayne, and at one point they almost called me Wayne, and I thank God every day that my parents never did that. But I lucked out that way. But anyway, DeLong Plumbing and Heating and Air is one of the things we like to do is talk with local businesses that are entrepreneurial, because obviously you're not part of a franchise, and also with people like yourself who didn't start the business, but as the second or third generation have been asked to pick up the gauntlet and run with it, like you have. Now, you've been president of DeLong Plumbing, Heating, and Air for what, about a little over a decade?
Yep, just 12 years now, going on 12 years. So
Okay.
it
And
it's been fun.
well, let's roll back the hands of time here a little bit. JW, you are from the Springfield area.
Yeah, so I was born and raised right here in Springfield.
Mm-hmm.
My parents are, my mom's from Marshfield originally. My father's from the Crane area, so we're all still Midwest Ozark type people. They met, moved into Springfield, and I was born right over by Mercy Hospital, right where I was born. I was actually born 2 blocks away from where I was raised 2 blocks away from where I was born. Um, Went to Delaware Elementary, Pershing Junior High, and went to Parkview High School. So just as local as you can get. I went to SMS, which used to be here in Springfield until MSU, took it over, or they changed the
Sure.
name.
Right.
But we still call it SMS in my house. My wife went there as well. So.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute now. Are you degreed, or did you take some classes and then just jump in the family business?
I am. So I didn't want to be a plumber. I
Mm-hmm.
started working with my dad at the age of 10. I went with him when he worked for another company prior to him even starting DeLong Plumbing, Heating, and Air. I would sweep the shop on the weekends and help him on other jobs if they needed to set fixtures or do some little things here and there. And then when he started his company, I would go with him on the nights, the weekends, all through the summers and things like that. Yeah, that's where I kind of started to come up and grow up in the business. And I didn't want to do it. Didn't want to be a plumber.
Sure.
And so went to college, really got into theater, design, construction, things like that.
Really?
So
Mm-hmm.
I have a bachelor's of fine arts in theater design and construction, set design, property design, really good at period furniture recreation and things like that.
Cool. Yeah.
Did that for a little while. My dad called me one night, just by probably a little bit of divine intervention. And he called me. I was pretty stressed out. He said, I really want you to come back and do this. I said, I'll be done in about 6 weeks. Give me some time to find a house. Or I said, start looking for a house and I'll be back. And sure enough, I moved back into Springfield, moved back in with my parents for a very short time. And then in May 2003, our business was hit with a tornado. We were in Battlefield, Missouri at the time, and it wiped out our entire building, property, all of our trucks, pretty much everything. So kind of that divine intervention to come back at that right moment to be with my dad, to get him through that part of our lives, I should say now more than anything, but to get us all through that.
My guest today that you're hearing and seeing on Around the Ozark Spotlight, J.W. DeLong of DeLong Plumbing, Heating, and Air. Back in the day, my dad was in HVAC work as well and had a little shop I worked for him for about 6 months in high school, and I swore to God I'd never do that again. Not because I didn't love my father, because I did, but it's not easy being the son of the owner.
No, it's not. It's not an easy task. I will tell you. When I came back, I went to college. Graduated college, had a degree, which didn't mean anything in the construction world. Started as a first year apprentice with the plumbing apprentice. Didn't
Mm-hmm.
matter that I had been doing it since I was 10 years old. They said, you may be 23 years old. It doesn't matter. We're going to start you out as a first year, which is probably the biggest blessing that I've ever had to, because it told me where I needed to be or where people needed to be
Sure.
that I may have, hired further on in life. So it was really a good thing. I went through a 5-year apprenticeship. After that, turned out as a journeyman plumber, worked in the field for many years until my dad started to grow the business more and we needed more of that business side of things.
Sure.
So I went into the office and started to help there. And then 12 years ago, he retired. I took over as president. Michael Johnston, who is a cousin of mine, was my dad's first apprentice as well.
Mm-hmm.
Technically his second apprentice, but he was one of my dad's apprentices, I should say. He came on board with my dad when the company started in '91, and he became the vice president when my dad retired. And so it's still my sister, my mom, myself, my other sister, and my cousin Michael, who are the owners. Michael, my little sister Jennifer, and I are the 3 day-to-day operations people.
Now, that in its own right is one of those things where people go, how do they do that? How do family work together? Or in this case, family and someone who's probably considered as family. How do you all work together? And really, are titles that important at this point?
So no, titles really aren't important with what we do. I mean, we all are very appreciative of our titles. My
Mm-hmm.
aunt is actually still a dispatcher with us. One of the ladies in the billing department has known my dad since they were in elementary school together. So we really are just one big family. Some days it's good, some days it's not. It's kind of like growing up in a family. If you think about it, we
Sure.
we fight and argue sometimes. We don't always see eye to eye, but at the end of the day, we're all family, and we really do stick together and stick it out and make it work well. Um, and it's one of those things that we've passed that value along to a lot of our employees. It's been our company motto. We love to support things here in the
Mm-hmm.
Ozarks community because we're community based. Also being that small family owned type business, we've got 60 people right now that work with us, and those people are what make us day-to-day operations and happy and keep things rolling. But they're not a number, they are people. We look out for them, we look out for their
Sure.
families. When we're getting work, we're trying to get work for not only Brian, but Brian's wife and kids that we know he has to support. So we
Mm-hmm.
continually try and work and grow our business based on making sure that we take care of our employees and our families as well.
Well, I won't throw any names out there because it wouldn't be fair to the young man, but he's come to our house. I always enjoy driving up and seeing the big yellow truck out in front because normally it means good news, not bad news. And y'all are doing something like rehabbing our furnace for the fall or getting things ready for the spring. And this young man, I had a chance to talk with him the other day a little bit, and it's almost like you have a football team there. He was being recruited by other companies, and he had started out with your company, I think, when he was very young. And he said, I just didn't like what they were telling me. I didn't like, the money was good and this and that. He said, but it really felt like I was home. And he's been with you all now for a number of years, and he's not very old, but boy, he sure is smart. And I thought he really shed a light on that. Especially at a time when it's tough to get employees, right? If you need new employees, it's tough to find good ones. You can find employees, but finding good ones. And here's someone who's probably one of your biggest cheerleaders.
Yeah, so all of our guys, a lot of people say I work for so and so works for me. I try as best I can to let these guys know I work with these people. They don't work
Mm,
for me. I get to work with these guys and gals. We've got both out there. The gentleman that you're speaking of, he is absolutely wonderful. He came to us from OTC, started
Hmm.
out in their program, came to work with us, did a great job, grew up, and has gotten more and more, growing into those leadership roles. We promote from within, and he is absolutely one of those guys that will do that and keep that. We don't do we don't have commissioned workers, so our guys don't get paid more if they sell you a brand new unit or two pieces,
Hmm.
of pipe or even just a fitting that they need. So our guys get paid very fair for what they do, and so they're very happy to do that. They don't have to take advantage of people, and I think that's been one of the best things about building our team, is the fact that those guys believe in it. They understand. They don't have to sell some lady something they don't need.
Sure.
Nobody wants to someone's grandma's.
No, I totally understand that. My guest today on Around the Ozark Spotlight, J.W. DeLong, J.W., the president of DeLong Plumbing, Heating, and Air. It's one of the things that you really are difficult to teach somebody is passion. You can't teach passion. You either have it or you don't. And it's interesting that your father was able to find in you the passion once you'd gone off and done something else for a little bit, where you were able to come back and say, you know what, it's just like me starting my own business. Really, Dad's got it set up, but he's got the faith and trust in me to put it on my shoulders. I mean, that's real passion, JW.
Yeah, I absolutely am passionate about it. I definitely wasn't as a child or as a kid, but
Hmm.
growing up doing this, everybody needs a plumber. Doesn't matter if the economy's good, the economy's bad. People don't always understand plumbing, and heating and air is one of those aspects that is well above even my head most of the time. That's
Hmm.
why we've built such a great team. One of my biggest sayings is, if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room. And I guarantee you, I am not in the wrong room when we have our full team together. I am surrounded by some of the smartest and best people in this industry. And these guys teach me every day, what's going on or how we're doing it. And it
Sure.
really does it makes it a family atmosphere. I want to make sure that guys feel like they've got the ability to run with their ideas. They've got the say so too of, hey, I can't not tell my boss this or that, otherwise he blows up at me. Well, we
Sure.
want to make sure that these guys have the ability to grow and teach us and do things the right way. I've had a lot of good mentors along the way that have taught me that, and I try and teach my guys that too. We do teach guys to the point where they decide they want to go out on their own, and that's a great thing too, because
Yeah.
you're just a success if those guys are a success, in my opinion.
A number of years ago, I worked with a
It's
broadcaster.
tough sometimes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. A number of years ago, I worked with a broadcaster in Detroit, Glenn Hagee, who was the master handyman, and he had a show that talked about repairs and things that was syndicated nationwide. And Glenn always had two favorite sayings. One is, and you'll love this one: "Water always wins." That's why you need a plumber. But he'd
Absolutely.
always love to say that water always wins. And the other one was, the best tool in your toolkit is a checkbook. And that's why you call professional people like yourselves to have things like that fixed. And I'll take those to my grave, but they're true as the moment he said it. Yeah, you mentioned something a minute ago. I think that's important. If you want to reiterate it, that the young man I was speaking of that has done some work in our home went to OTC and with the desire to get more education of working with his hands. How important is that?
So that's huge for us. Over the last 20 years of me being back into this business, we saw in the first 10 years of that, we really saw people going with the motto, you need to go to college, you need to go to college, don't go be a trash man, don't go be a plumber, don't go be some guy that works with his hands, acting like it was a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it really is one of those things we fought hard over the last 10 years to correct that. And we're seeing a good turnaround with that. I've met people with master's degrees that answer the telephone places because they can't find a job in their degree field or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And what I tell people all the time, plumbing, heating and air, electrical, anything in these trades, you can do that anywhere in the world. It doesn't matter if you're here in Springfield, Missouri, New York, California, somewhere in Mexico, Aruba,
Mm-hmm.
all those places have plumbing. All those places have heating and air, or they have at least air conditioning in most of those tropical climates. So, why wouldn't you do that? And we get paid pretty well because there's not a lot of people willing to do it. So it is definitely a lucrative business to be a part of. We take a kid right out of high school. And on the plumbing side, we're a union plumbing shop. So we can take a kid right out of high school. They can
Mm-hmm.
start in the union in 5 years. They are a journeyman plumber. 4 years after that, they can get their master's license. They have zero debt, and they can be making 80 being in Springfield, Missouri, which is a pretty good wage in this day and age in this town, especially. And if you want to make more money, you can make $200,000 a year by traveling.
Sure.
It is definitely a big thing to travel and do that.
We're going to be back in a moment with more on Around the Ozarks Spotlight with today's guest, J.W. DeLong. I'm your host, Scott Meier. Back in just a minute.
Hey, everybody, it's Ethan and Sarah Forhetz from your favorite podcast, Around the Ozarks in 5. I'm sure you've been wondering, how can I get even more amazing stories, events, and witty banter to start my day?
Well, look no further. Here we are. Sign up for our daily newsletter. You'll have what's going on around the Ozarks right at your fingertips each weekday morning.
Yeah, just go to aroundtheozarks.com, click on the newsletter tab to sign up.
Thanks for listening to Around the Ozarks in 5. We hope to see you in your inbox soon.
Welcome back to the second half of today's Around the Ozarks Spotlight. I'm your host, Scott Meier. With me, J.W. DeLong, president of DeLong Plumbing, Heating, and Air. We've been talking a lot about, in the first half of the show, how DeLong Plumbing came to be and the importance of having these degrees that you get in from the union and to become master plumbers or totally understand HVAC and the things that go with it. But something that you were able to touch on, but we didn't elaborate on, is DeLong is so much more than that. DeLong spends a lot of time and money as a company on the community. And JW, hats off to you, because I know you spend a lot of your time, and you don't have a lot of time with Springfield Sertoma. Why don't you talk a little bit about that and your why? And why are you involved in that?
Yeah, so Sertoma is a huge part of my is a huge part of my life. I've had a lot of friends that were in it, that started out with it and joined Springfield Sertoma back in it's Pence, and then I proceeded to help them do a little bit of plumbing work, some other things that they needed. And that grew into, hey, what do you guys do besides these events? Oh, we give money to children's charities. We help all these other groups out. The Boys and Girls Clubs of Springfield are huge with Sertoma. Every single basketball gym has a Sertoma logo on the floor. And since I became a member, we've actually supported an entire unit. They've got one over at Studi, or not Studi, but one of the schools has a Sertoma unit attached to it, and it's a Sertoma unit. It truly made me a passion after working with these groups and working with these kids.
We're having some audio difficulty. Are we back?
Are you there?
I think we're having a little Wi-Fi trouble. That's the beauty of digital, is sometimes the Wi-Fi doesn't always work out for us. But you were mentioning the amounts of money that Springfield Sertoma has been able to raise. What kinds of monies have you been able to raise for the Boys and Girls Clubs?
Yeah, Springfield. So I'm not exactly sure of the total amount. I know we're over $75,000 a year, roughly. So over the last 20 or 30 years, we're well into the $1 million we've raised.
Wow. That's crazy. Now, we were talking about the time that it takes to do some of these things on behalf of the community. You're a father, and I've had the privilege of meeting part of your family, but let's talk about that a little bit. Where'd you meet your wife?
So my wife moved here from Chicago in junior high. We first met in 7th grade, 8th grade, right in there. And we went to separate high schools, moved away for college, and then reconnected when I moved back to Springfield. It was just kind of a story. I was having a party at my house, a Halloween party, and she showed up, asked what I was doing there. And I said, well, this is my house. What are you doing here? So it worked out. We rekindled the relationship, and we were engaged for quite a while. I'm a firm believer in long engagements after being engaged for 6 years. At least that's what I have to say now, because I did drag it on so long. But we've been together. We've got a 14-year-old son. He is amazing. We've been married for 15 years now. And it's just been truly great. We absolutely get to enjoy life together. We get to enjoy our son and raising him and learning the woes of everything on that side of it. We always talk about how God blessed us with a son and not a daughter, because I don't know that I could have handled a daughter, as well as all the cute clothes that we see. I've got 2 nieces that I love to buy things for every time we see girl stuff. And my wife she's more of a boy mom for sure. She doesn't handle a lot of drama, so she loves the fact that we've got a boy.
Now, at age 14, is that about the time that you were puttering around the store or the shop with your dad?
Yeah. So by the time I was 14, my dad had started his business, and I went and worked with him and did stuff with him. My son will come and help me occasionally on that. He helps me out doing some other stuff in the construction side. We've got rental properties and some things like that, and he's good to go and help me with that sort of thing. I definitely focus him more on his studies as well. He was a competitive swimmer up until last year, and he did that for 7 years of his life. He enjoyed it, swam all the time, but needed a little break from it. So that took up a lot of his time as a young child. And this year I've kind of given him a pass on, just every single day having to go and do work. But he spent 5 days a week doing that. And every other weekend we would travel and compete. So he really, really deserved the year off, but he's learning now. He does archery. He's learning Spanish. He is in speech and debate, which is one of those things that I did in high school. So I think it's a great thing for him to learn. He is a DeLong, so he is absolutely loud when he talks. He doesn't really have too much of a filter. And of course, being truly bred into him, his butt crack shows, quite often when he's bent over, just like me.
So he's got the plumber in him. Earlier this year, you and I had talked. Let's talk about business for just a second. Well, thanks for sharing about the family, because that's a great story. We've got a new administration coming in, and I don't want to get political. That's not the point of this. But the previous administration had done some new things, the government had anyway, on changing up what can and can't go in air conditioning systems in people's homes. And I was shocked. I had heard about it from somebody else, and I called the one person I know in the industry who knows what he's talking about, and that's you. And we had talked about if I had to replace my air conditioning unit on our home, what would that look like in 2025? And you said probably about somewhere between a 10 and a 20% increase in cost because of the new regulations. What's that all about?
So just like anything, we have changed our Freon systems over the years. The EPA, the government, realizes that those chlorofluorocarbons, it's a hard thing to say, but that's what goes up and depletes the ozone. We had years and years ago, we had R22 Freon. That has been phased out. They don't make it anymore. They haven't made it for quite a few years. R410A was the Freon that they replaced that with, full well knowing that they were going to outmode that in the year 2025. So we have now seen we're almost to 2025. There's different manufacturers coming up with different kinds of things. They're not sure. None of them have an exact one down yet. Where 410A was kind of the rollover for everybody. Now we've got 3 or 4 different kinds of Freon out there that are doing it. With that change becomes research and development, extra cost added to it. Once these systems are out of date and outmoded, that Freon just goes to an exorbitant price. When we started out, when I came back in 2003, R22 Freon cost us I believe it was $23 a drum. The last drum that we bought of it before it expired, I believe, was just a little over $1,000 a drum. So, that cost just gets passed on, of course, to the consumer. But now we're having to carry 4 different types of Freon or 5 different types of Freon to make sure that we've got those things, on board, as well as the guys are having to learn more systems and different ways that they work and stuff like that. We've got to have more specialty equipment for more specialty Freons. And so that just keeps raising the cost up on top of everything else. So we've learned a lot of things about it. Our guys are continually going to classes and education on that sort of thing. The 410A equipment is done. They don't make any more of it. So there's a lot of companies that have stockpiled 410A equipment. Individual companies, the supply houses are running out of it quickly. So that is where we are going to see that increase, tick up because of the fact that we don't have the old supply of stuff. They're still manufacturing the new stuff. There's going to be some growing pains and learning experiences as we go along with that. So it's going to be something that's a challenge. But it's also going to come at a cost for people who didn't jump on that train early. We saw a lot of increase from the COVID era when it was hard to get these units anyway. Plus the demand for, units, people were at home more units were being sold in the homes because they were wearing out, because they were running longer and more periods of time. So we saw those units almost double in cost, if not 1.5 times, the price of those. Yeah.
Wow.
So that we saw that happen from 2020 to 2024. And now we're looking at all different types of units that are going to go in. And, we try and meet those EPA standards. We try and meet the SEER ratings, the energy efficiency ratings, with those units, especially those people who want those rebates, those federal rebates and things like that. It really does, it makes a difference, but you end up paying quite a bit more for that efficiency and those things that are out there.
Without getting way too deep in the woods, SEERs, I'm sure some people listening have heard that word, maybe don't know quite what it means, but can you be too efficient? Is that something that you can overbuy efficiency for your home, whether it's heating units or air conditioning?
Sure. If you are a member of the Sierra Club, no. You cannot ever be too efficient. For the average homeowner, yes, it does come a point where the cost outweighs the benefit that you're going to receive for that. A lot of people, if they're not going to be in their home for 10, 15 years, they're not going to see the payback on that system, especially in the savings. You really you have to focus on something there of, do you want to save the environment? Do you want to be more efficient as you're doing it? But unless you plan on being there in that house for a long term, you're not going to necessarily see the benefits of it. So that SEER rating is the higher the SEER rating, of course, the more efficient the system is. 10 SEER was kind of the standard in the early 2000s. 13 SEER has been the last 5 to 7 years, and we're seeing more and more SEER ratings up from that as well. And I believe that's the Seasonal Energy Efficiency Rating is what SEER stands for, SEER. So yeah, it's a little confusing on some of that stuff, that jargon talk. But that's why you hire a professional, because we know what that jargon is and we know why you need it or why you may not need it.
What's the best thing someone who's listening to today's program can do to get a hold of you or get a hold of your company to be able to get some of these questions answered?
Yeah, absolutely. People can call us at our office, 417-883-3535. It is the same phone number we've had since 1991. We're on the web, DeLongPlumbing.com. If they're in the Lebanon area, we actually have an office we just opened in Lebanon. We now cover that area as well. The phone number will get you to the Lebanon office. If you need to, they can transfer you. Facebook, we have DeLong Plumbing as well on there. There's a few of them, so make sure you look for the ones with the big yellow truck on it, and that is us. And that's really the best way, is to call the office, just ask for us, and we can get the right professional tech involved and make sure you get the answer correctly.
I got to tell you quickly before we jump off of here, I was wearing my DeLong T-shirt a while ago at Menards, and somebody stopped me and said, "Can I ask you a couple of questions about plumbing?" I said, "Sure, you can ask me whatever you want." I said, "But this is a friend of mine, and I love the company, but I don't work for them." So, but they do always recognize the big yellow something. Maybe I look like a big yellow truck. I don't know. I want to thank my guest today, J.W. DeLong, on Around the Ozark Spotlight. Thanks, J.W., for being with us. Also, my producers, Taylor Dempster and Jay Stevens, as well as all of you for joining us today. If you happen to miss any or a part of today's program, you can always find ATO Spotlight on the AroundTheOzarks.com website. You can find it on YouTube, easily find it on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or X, or our new app for ATO, which can be found in either the Apple App Store or Android apps. I'm Scott Meier. Remember, every day is a gift. Have a great day.
Thanks. Have a great day.